when you're done. This is just a little more to add to that. I volunteer at a lot of places and I do a lot of contributions. So these are just some active communities that I've served with basically for the time being. And in terms of social media, for most social media, you will find me at Addae. That's my handle on LinkedIn, Twitter, anywhere at all. You can just find me there. So let's dive right into it. Today, I'll be taking you guys through the evolution. That's how far Py hints have come in Python. Then we'll take a look at some strategies and patterns that you can adopt. And then we'll see what's next for typing as well. That was a short code sample here. Once again, I'm going to check how many of us are familiar or understand what is over there. This one, you don't have to be a Python programmer to know what is going on. Can I see how many of us are familiar with the code sample or snippet over there? Great. Now I see a lot of people. Thank you very much. Okay. How about this one? How many people? Okay. Now that's good. At least I was hoping we'll get a lesser number, but it's nice. So, which means that both code actually will do the same thing. Nothing different. It's the same thing. But one has some descriptions on it, which we call typings or annotations. Is that okay? So in Python is not statically typed, it's dynamic, which means that you could write without the type and then it will still run. Is that okay? But then why go through the trouble to write it? When you do this outright, the person will not have to guess. Yes, the compiler will do some guessing at when he's trying to interpret it, but we read more code than we actually write code very often. If you join a company, you're not going to start a code base. You're most likely going to read what is there before you actually contribute to it. So then it makes it easier for whoever is going to inherit that code base to proceed and do changes safely, basically. So it's good for the compiler, it's good for the programmer as well. So it's not just the compiler that it's good for. But the compiler is good because we'll spend time guessing what it's supposed to be. Is that okay? That's an overhead. We don't want that. So you're saving you're killing two birds with a stone or something like that, as the saying goes. And then from this point, I'll probably speed up a little bit because the main idea has been established. So with the evolution, too fast. With evolution, type hint was introduced in 2014 because fundamentally or traditionally, Python is dynamic. It doesn't need a static data definitions actually. And then that was described in 484. So if you have time, you can take a look at it. So basically what it did was it introduced the fundamental syntax that we have, for example, in this case. And then so then in the next iteration, that was in 2017, described in 561, you realize that the standardized type hinting in packages and how we distribute type information. And this is for mostly package distribution. You have to introduce a file marker, which is py.typed, to do that. And then in 2020, we realized that we got another iteration, which was described in 585. And then what it did basically was that they introduced built-in collections as generics. Simply, initially, you have to import the typing generics. In this case, the new iteration, you don't have to do the import. You just use it directly and then it works, which will make you write less code basically. And then in 2021, what did we see? We have the periodic generics, which will allow you to define the depth of a tuple or a list, or even a matrix. Previously, you couldn't do that. You would have to just assume it was infinite, basically. And these are important. This particular one is very important if you do a lot of data science stuff, for where you might not need it. And then in 2020, we had arbitrary literal strings, which it speaks for itself. It's checking literally the literal string, and it's good for SQL and shell commands validation. Is that okay? Then in 2023, we had we introduced or Python programmers introduced typing.self, which basically helps us to be able to validate or make type checks with classes that even goes down to the child class as well. Is that okay? And then, yeah, same thing over here. For type dictionary as well. And then we had 2024, we had PEP 7.2 describing how improvement on type date. So with the type date, once again, is mostly for classes. So after this improvement, you could now do a type check like the one on your right, to check if the animal is a dog or a cat by just doing this. You don't have to do this instance or something. No, you don't need to do that. Yeah, so more improvement on the type date. And then finally, that was it. Since 2014 to date. These are how far we've come on typing. So on the strategy, the phase and gradual typing. So the first thing will be to secure the public APIs or code that you expose, because those are the ones that people are going to be reading in order to interface with your functionalities or features. So first of all, you want to target those ones because those are public ones, so that it takes away the ambiguity and all the stress guessing what is what. Then probably in the next phase, you want to now be straight on the additions that are coming to the old base. And then eventually, if you have time, once in a while, you can go back to the legacy codes and improve them with the typing. In the second strategy, what you can do is you can use staff files. For example, even for a project like Django, doesn't have typing. And it's an old project. So what they do actually is that they have staff files, and then you find yourself in that situation where you have a lot of code base and you don't want to go with a phased scenario. You can use a staff file. So basically, you can introduce a file without touching the main code or legacy code. All the type checkings or type validations can be done in a different file or project entirely, so that you don't touch the code, since it's probably fragile, you don't know what will happen, so you just need to know that file. So, driving adoption and culture, what you can do is that you can add this type. We have modules like MyPy, PyWrite, and all those guys. You can add them to your CI/CD pipelines to ensure that these things are checked, especially if you are starting out in exactly. So it increases readability and maintainability as well. Yeah. So this one is just, some people go further to check the coverage of these validations or checks to see if it's 90%, 100%. But the trick is not to achieve 100%. It's the same thing with tests. I know some people would fight me on that one where you don't achieve 100% test in your code base, but then at least you should have like 80%. It's doable. Is that okay? Yeah. Yeah, sometimes it can get a bit daunting. So some of these of these things are already integrated in the IDs, the very IDs you use. So sometimes you don't have to even worry your head trying to know how you can go about the typing. Just follow them. In fact, you can even ask AI. I didn't add AI to it. You can add AI to the list. They will help you with the typings and then the linting for formatters like black and rough. They will all do that for you. Yes, so a quick advice, don't aim for 100% coverage instantly, basically. And for the future, so I think was it last month, Python Foundation actually released a form to contribute to how they can make typing expressive. I'm sure by the end of the day, that form is closed. So as a community, I think it would be best if you contribute to how, I know some of you don't want to do the type check or typings because it's more code to the code base. But as I said, it will help with readability and then compiler safe runtimes. So for the future, one is to be supportive. Contribute, you don't have to be a coder. With your voice, I'm sure some of the previous speakers have spoken about it. The ones that will come after will also speak about it. The contribution, not just in code, you can contribute by just policies or your voice, basically. And then, in the future, we are hoping for better tooling convergence, so faster checks and a better experience for IDs. We are looking for a continual enhancement as well, and also for package distribution. So that will basically end my talk for today. But before I go, I want to leave you with this quote again. It's in Ewe. Let me see my Ewe people in the house. Yay! Nice. So what it says is that illegal to chia, which basically means that never put up till tomorrow what you can do the day after tomorrow. And this one is from Twain, basically. So from our ancestors wrote this one down a long time, but then we don't know the name of the ancestor, so it's ancestor of our But then the other people, they've documented